Hi, I'm at CF3Loyal on Twitter, staying at home every other Saturday, and it's day 3 and people are still watching, so thank you very much. Please do continue to provide feedback, comment and share the material, it's greatly appreciated. Now, last night didn't go entirely to plan. I had a couple of drinks, one thing led to another, and ended up speaking for 20 minutes about centre forward, where at the end of the video I concluded that 2 of the existing 3 will still be here and we're going to sign 1 more player. So we're not going to have a drink tonight, we're going to aim for sub 10 minutes as we go through our number 10s. Damn, that's good. Alright, best place to start is formation. Now, last night I vowed not to get dragged into a debate around formation, but I think when we're talking about number 10s, it has to be discussed very slightly. Let's be honest, Steven Gerrard, who's been involved in the game for his entire career, I think since about 13 years old when he joined Liverpool, and Michael Beale, who's travelled all around the world as a coach learning his trade, probably know a bit more about it than me, but there is an argument between continuing a 4-3-3 formation with the 2 number 10s or playing a 4-2-3-1. Now, the only thing I'm going to say is I think it's going to depend on who we bring in, and I'm going to talk a little bit at the end, as I normally do, around transfer targets, but I do think for the basis of this I'm going to make the assumption that we're going to go with a 4-3-3, and when I do talk through the 2 players that I think will start in the 2 number 10 positions either side of Alfredo Morelos, I think we're going to make the assumption that those are going to play predominantly as number 10s, and I'm going to elaborate a wee bit more as we go through. If ever there was a position that summed up our squad imbalance and our lack of transfer strategy, this is it. Now, when we get to the players in the squad, we're going to see why. But I'm going to start on the right hand side, and I'm going to start with Yanis Hadji. Now, rumours today are that Hadji will conclude his deal at Rangers. It's looking very likely. The rumoured fee is €5 million, which was the rumoured agreement at the end of his loan, which comes out to about £4.2 million, I believe. Yanis Hadji's huge potential, a potential huge asset on our hands. £4.2 million should give us somebody who hit the ground running. We've certainly seen that after he joined in January, but I think it gives us a real sellable asset. So I'm entirely for Yanis Hadji signing, but I'm also entirely for Yanis Hadji starting as a number 10 on our right hand side. Now, for me, I mentioned last night about Alfredo Morelos' ability to win games on his own. I think Yanis Hadji has that ability as well. We've seen it against Braga. We were dead and buried at 2-0. He got the goal to bring it to 2-1, and the game changed. The atmosphere changed the game. The Braga players' heads went down, but that came from Yanis Hadji, and obviously the winner came from Yanis Hadji as well in the home leg. So I think Yanis Hadji has that ability to win games on his own, but he probably needs to find his feet in the blood and thunder games of the SPFL, which at the end of the day are our bread and butter. Europe is fantastic for supporters to go and watch their team against teams like Braga, like Leverkusen. It's great for finances, it's great for club reputation when we're coming down to attracting new players, new brands associated with the club. But at the end of the day, the fans demand the league title, and I think it's how we're going to judge Steven Gerrard. So for me, Yanis Hadji needs to be a bit more involved in the SPFL games. He needs to adjust to the physicality of the game, and hopefully we see a lot more of him when we're playing domestic football. Now, when I'm talking about the formation as 2 number 10s, I'm going to draw a comparison with a Liverpool player or an ex-Liverpool player, because I think there's a lot of similarities, and that player is Philippe Coutinho. Now, when Coutinho played on the left hand of a front 3, nobody ever complained about Jurgen Klopp playing with an unorthodox winger or a number 10. He was very effective in that position. He drifted in. He got a lot of goals and a lot of assists from drifting in as well. Very different to Sadio Mane. They offer very different qualities. But I think you've seen what Michael Beale and Steven Gerrard are trying to achieve with Rangers when you look at Philippe Coutinho at Liverpool. They also both share a lack of pace. It's probably my biggest concern around Yanis Hadji, but I think if he's playing on the opposite side of someone like Ryan Kent, and we'll get to the opposite side very soon, then you should get that pace on the opposite side, and you should have variety on both sides and not have the exact same style of player, because at the end of the day, you need to be able to offer something different to break teams down, and I think Hadji and Kent have that balance. So for me, Yanis Hadji will start on the right hand side of the front three. His backup, and what I should have said is I expect us only to have 4 number 10s by the end of the window, maybe 5, and I'll come on to that later. For me, the number 2 behind Yanis Hadji is Joe Aribo. Now, I have my concerns about Joe Aribo. He's technically superb. His goal against Braga to make it 2 each was outstanding. His stats aren't bad either. Now, in the league he played 27, he scored 3 and he got 8 assists. That's not a bad return for somebody that was in and out of the team, and a lot of those appearances came from off the bench. My concern with Joe Aribo is the games that I see him being needed. Now, Aribo was excellent in Europe, and I think Steven Gerrard has a real challenge on his hands between building a side for domestic football and building a side for Europe, because you need different qualities of players for the two. But when I go back to my initial comment about the league is our bread and butter, the issue I have with Aribo is the likelihood is he'll start on the bench, and the likelihood is we'll only call on Joe Aribo when we need to mix it up. And you're taking off Hadji, potentially, or moving him into a different position. But my biggest concern about Aribo, when he comes on that pitch, he's not exactly the most penetrative. He's somebody who's quite calm on the ball, and it's a very good quality. He's very technically superb, but he's not going to be the one who grabs the game by the scruff of the neck and carries the ball forward. And that's my biggest concern. So when I mentioned earlier on, I think he will be number 2 to Yanis Hadji. I think it comes with a huge caveat that it depends on who we sign, and I'll come on to a player later on in the video. If we do sign that player, I fully expect Joe Aribo to still be here, and my expectation is that he will drop down to centre mid, and I'll talk a bit more about centre mids in a couple of nights' time. That takes us onto the left hand side, and I actually spoke to my mates before the video tonight, and I said I don't want this to be a Ryan Kent bashing, because I'm actually a huge fan of Ryan Kent, but the stats don't lie. Ryan Kent has played 21 league games, he's scored 7 goals, that's 1 in 3, but he's not had a single assist. Now, there are some positives. For me, he's a big game player. We've seen that against Celtic, and we've seen it against Braga, 2 very important goals. I think his secondary assists can't be underestimated as well. He's somebody who's very capable of driving the ball forward, and I think currently maybe our only player capable of doing that, and it can't be understated how important that is to our team. But he drops too deep for me, and that's maybe as a result of our lack of real creativity in the middle of the park, and nobody who can pick the ball up from our defenders and then play it into Kent a bit higher up the pitch. But what I want to see Ryan Kent do more of is get behind the defenders more. He doesn't do that enough for me. He can also be a bit predictable at times. Teams can show him down the outside, and therefore he's on his left foot, and he'll then, he's decent on his left foot, but he tends to then look to cut in, and the move breaks down, and that's pretty evident from the lack of assists that he has. But he's only 23. Now, I want him to be more consistent. Wingers always have a challenge around consistency. I do think Ryan Kent is getting better. I also think that with the signing of Yanis Hadji, it takes some of the pressure off of Ryan Kent. Teams have been able to double up on Ryan Kent, which makes it very difficult to get in behind. It means he drops off, but it also means he can't beat the man when he's running into 2 players, unless he's got Barisic overlapping him, which will come on to fullbacks tomorrow night. I do think when Hadji comes on board more regularly into next season, and you've got two players of that level of quality and creativity, teams won't be able to double up on Kent because they'll be worrying about Hadji, and when they do double up on Kent, you can then switch it across to Hadji and vice versa. So I do think it comes with huge caveats that yes, I've been critical of him around his contribution in the final third, but I do think he's got the potential to be a much better player, a much bigger player for us. For me, he needs to find a way to contribute when he's not playing well. You know, I'll compare him to Jamie Murphy, for example. In Jamie Murphy's first spell, when he first joined Rangers in the January of the season 2017-2018, Jamie Murphy played 11 games, he scored 4 and he assisted 5. After he was injured and he went down to Burton Albion, he played 9, he scored 7 and he got assists of 2. Now, I'm going to come on to Jamie Murphy later, but that's what I want. That's the kind of stats that we need Ryan Kent to be delivering. He needs to be consistent, he needs to be delivering them, but he needs to find a way of being able to perform when he's not at his best. Now, I'm going to make one last comment about him, and it's a reference to his price tag. He's judged on the fact that Rangers apparently paid £7 million for Kent. Now, I don't know whether we paid £7 million. There are a few rumours circulating that actually it was nearer to 3, and the £7 million includes signing on fees and wages, etc., add-ons. But we need to, as supporters, forget about the fee and get behind a young player who's a top asset. And actually, if Ryan Kent performs, he is a player who could go on and make us some money. Number 2 to Ryan Kent. Now, I spoke last night about Matej Vidra. I think we will still be interested in Vidra, but as I said last night, I don't think it will be as a centre forward. I think Vidra, if he comes to the club, and I think there's no doubt that we will continue to pursue our interest in him, he'll be played on the left. Now, it's a toss-up between whether Kent and Vidra will start. But what I will say is, in certain positions of the team, you can chop and change. Players that are on the bench will get some game time off the bench. You know, if I think of centre-backs, not often you want to see your centre-backs change. Not often you want to change it during a game. But when it's not working for you, you'll want to change it. You'll also want to mix it up and bring something different on. And I do think that Vidra offers that something different. I compared him to Martin Waghorn last night. He's not an out-and-out winger, and that has some concerns for me. He's not the most pacey. He's not going to grab the ball and dribble with the ball the way that Kent does. But I think in certain games he's going to suit us. When you look at his spell at Derby County in 2017-2018, he played 40 and he scored 21 goals and got 4 assists. So there's definitely a space in the team for somebody who can score goals like that. He's probably quite similar to Canberra. If we think back to last season, I think he'll offer something different to Kent. And I spoke last night, particularly around centre forward, that when you're looking at the bench, you want to be able to mix it up. And I'm quite happy that we're linked with Vidra. But he's going to come at a price tag. Vidra went to Burnley for £11 million. He's not going to come here cheap. He's under contract. I would expect Burnley to be looking for something in between £4 to £6 million. And that's not a price tag that we are going to pay to play back up. So an interesting one, but again, I spoke last night about we want to be able to bring quality off the bench. That's real quality. One last comment about Vidra, and I don't know if this is entirely true or not, but I understand that when he was at Watford, Ross Wilson was the director of football who brought him to Watford. So that's the potential link between Vidra coming to Rangers again. I spoke briefly about the fact that we may have 4 or 5 players capable of playing in that position, depending on how things go in the window. Those are the 4. The 5th for me is Kai Kennedy. Now, Kai Kennedy's only 18 years old. He got a debut under Steven Gerrard against Stranraer in the Cup. He's very highly rated. In fact, teams like Man City and Bayern Munich were rumoured to be looking at him. I've seen him a couple of times, particularly last season. I think it was the Glasgow Cup against Celtic, and he was excellent. He's young, he's pacey, but he needs to toughen up a bit. He needs to get a wee bit more sharp for the professional football. and it's a decision again for the management team whether that's best for his development to be involved in the squad and get some games here and there, or whether it's best to loan him out. So we may see Kai Kennedy involved in the first team squad next year, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does get loaned out. Scott Arfield for me is a centre mid, but I also wouldn't be surprised that if we're short of options at the number 10, that he is somebody who can slot into that space as well. So we do have options there. Now, players departing. I mentioned earlier on around our lack of transfer strategy, and I'm going to talk about wingers. Last year, at some point, we had Shea Ojo, Florian Kamberi, Greg Stewart, Jordan Jones, Brandon Barker, Glenn Middleton, Jake Hastie, Jamie Murphy and Josh Mcpeak. So that's 9 players in addition to some of the ones that I've mentioned already that aren't needed. We signed so many wingers, particularly last year, when we don't play with wingers. And I don't know whether that's a really, really poor transfer strategy or a failed attempt to convert some of these players to number 10. Now, going through them individually, Ojo and Kamberi will go back to their parent clubs. We've seen a pretty classy goodbye message from Shea Ojo, and I wish him well. Disappointed with how that worked out, because when he started, I thought he had all the attributes. I really did, but it didn't work out for him, and I'm pretty disappointed how things worked out, but wish him well. Spoke about Greg Stewart last night. I don't think Greg Stewart would be the 4th or 5th choice as a number 10 for us, unfortunately, so I think he could exit. Jordan Jones, I'm a big fan of Jordan Jones. I think, particularly against Legia Warsaw, he changed the game. He was excellent. I think he's a winger. I don't think he's capable of playing as a number 10, and therefore I think we will look to move him on. There was rumours of Blackburn looking at him during the January transfer window. We could probably get a fee of about £1 million for Jordan Jones, and I think it'd be £1 million that we would welcome to spend elsewhere. So if we get the right offer, I could see him going. Brandon Barker. He had a great game against Porto away in Europe, but we probably didn't see enough of Barker. Certainly not the Barker that I think most Rangers fans seen when he was at Hibs on loan. And I spoke to my mates recently about an article from The Athletic where Jordan Campbell refers to Brandon Barker as someone that most coaches who worked with him under 20 said that he was one of English football's most promising prospects, that he would make it to the very top. I've also heard reliably that he's a pretty good trainer at Rangers. So I don't know whether we'll give him another chance or we'll maybe loan him out. I'm not a fan. I wouldn't have him here. I would be shipping him out. As I would with Middleton. I think Middleton's now 20. Failed attempt at Hibs last season. We didn't get a lot of game time. Disappointed in Middleton, because when Middleton broke through under Nick Gerrard initially, he was excellent. I think back to Spartak Moscow away, he was first class. But he's not really kicked on from there, and he's getting to the age where he needs to be playing regular football, and I don't think he's going to get that with us. So I would wish him well, and I would expect to see him go, as I would Jake Hastie. Probably a pretty failed transfer last year. Hasn't really worked out for Jake Hastie. He went to Rotherham. He started off very well, but faded away. If I think back to that Motherwell team, we probably signed the lesser of the two players at the top of the Motherwell team. The other one being David Turnbull, who we know failed a medical at Celtic, and then because of knee injury problems, and then went through last season going through the recovery and operation. David Turnbull is one to monitor next year. I don't think we'll sign him in the centre mid. Definitely one to monitor, but from a Jake Hastie perspective, I think we'll move him on. Right, 2 more to go, and I'm very conscious I'm approaching the 20-minute mark, so I've failed miserably again. Jamie Murphy, I spoke about stats earlier on. Jamie Murphy's a very, very good player. You don't play for a team in the Premiership and are a key component of that team in their promotion from the Championship without being a good player. But I don't think he suits Steven Gerrard's style. Jamie Murphy's very much an inside forward who likes to cut in the final third. I think Gerrard likes to see that number 10 that's a wee bit more fluid just behind the striker. And for that reason, I think we'll see Jamie Murphy move on. But I think we'll get a fee for Jamie Murphy again. So I'd be expecting to get something at least £500,000, which would allow us to go and reinvest that in the squad, but also it'd be another wage off the wage bill, as well as the other 7 I've mentioned so far. And then it takes me to the last player in the squad, which is Josh Mcpeak. I think when Gerrard took over, Josh Mcpeak was very highly rated as a youngster in the development squad, and we loaned him out to Dundee, probably expecting Josh Mcpeak to go out and really rip it up at Dundee, and it didn't happen for one reason or another. Josh Mcpeak came back in January, and you actually see a transformation in Josh Mcpeak when you look at the pictures. He's a lot bigger, a lot more physical. It's quite impressive, his physique actually. He's very pacey. I'm surprised that it didn't work at Dundee. The fact that it didn't work at Dundee makes me think that he won't be in the first team squad next year, but because of how highly regarded he was, I expect him to be loaned out to another championship team next year to watch him and see how he does. So that takes me into rumoured transfers for the evening, and I've spoken already about Vidra. I fully expect that to happen. The next one on my list is Mario Götze. Jokes, we can all dream. No, the reality is, on my list are 2 Liverpool young players, Harvey Elliott and Curtis Jones. We have been rumoured with both of them. I think if we do sign Vidra, we won't sign any of those, but I do think there's interest there. We heard that Steven Gerrard had bumped into Jurgen Klopp in a park down in Liverpool during lockdown. Wouldn't surprise me if they spoke about them, but I think if we do sign Vidra, we will not see Elliott or Jones at Rangers, but they're both very highly rated. And one thing that they do have in common is they're both ball-playing wingers who are capable of carrying the ball forward, which I spoke about in terms of if we don't have Kent in the team, we potentially lack. So actually it would be a benefit to the team if we did have them. But I do think Vidra would be our number 1 choice ahead of them. A name that's arose over the last couple of days, and I don't know whether to believe it or not, is Jordan Ibe. Now, Jordan Ibe's out of contract at Bournemouth. He's on £80,000 a week. He's an ex-Liverpool player, and like the last 2 players I've mentioned, it's probably a pretty easy rumour to make. But he didn't do very well at Bournemouth, and his stock's probably a little bit low, and he probably can't command a wage of £80,000 again. And I mentioned earlier on around, depending on who we get, might influence Gerrard's decision on formation. I think we might be inquiring about Jordan Ibe, and I think if we were to inquire about Jordan Ibe, that would allow us to play Ivan Kent out wide, for example, and potentially have Hadji at the front of a midfield pyramid. It's tough to know whether we're going to sign Jordan Ibe, but it wouldn't surprise me if we did, but it wouldn't surprise me if we didn't because of the wages that he commands. So definitely one to watch. If we did sign Vidra and Ibe, those would be 2 outstanding signings, but they would cost a lot of money in wages, and I think it would be supported by the players that I mentioned potentially leaving. Now, that's the end of today's video. We're 23 minutes in. I've failed absolutely miserably once again. If you're still watching, thank you very much. Tomorrow, we're going to discuss fullbacks. Wish me luck talking about our very divisive captain. But until then, stay safe, stay staunch, and it's Saturday, so get on it.